Welcome to this executive meeting of Burnley Borough Council on the 8th of December 2020. Executive members in attendance are as follows. Councillor Leanne Pate, Deputy Leader. Councillor Afrasiab Anwar, Portfolio Holder for Community Environment. Councillor Sue Graham, Portfolio Holder for Resources. Councillor John Harbell, Portfolio Holder for Housing. And Councillor Asif Raja, Portfolio Holder for Economy and Growth. Also observing the meeting is Councillor Margaret Lishman. Council officers present are Mick Cartledge, the Chief Executive. Lukman Patel, the Chief Operating Officer. Kate Ingram, Head of Economy and Growth, Howard Hamilton-Smith, Head of Finance and Property, Simon Goff, Head of Green Spaces and Amenities, Joanne Swift, Head of Street Scene, Elizabeth Murphy, Planning Policy Manager, Pete Millwood, Principal Planner, and Rob Dobson, Policy and Head of Policy and Engagement. Also present are Alison McEwen, Democracy Officer, and Chris Gay, hosting the meeting, Governance Manager. Thank you, Chair. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Executive. Item number one, apologies. No apologies have been received. All Executive members are in attendance this evening. Item number two, minutes of the previous meeting of Tuesday, 20th of October and Monday, 26th of October 2020. I will move those minutes. Councillor Pate, can you please second those minutes?
I second those, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Chair. Getting elevated already.
Unless I hear otherwise, I'll take those minutes as being approved. Thank you very much. Of the individual member decisions, individual member decisions have been made on the 23rd of October and the 20th of November. I will move those individual member decisions. Councillor Pate, can you please second those individual member decisions?
Second them, Chair.
Thank you very much. Those decisions are noted. Item number 4 on the agenda, minutes of the urgent delegated decisions by the Chief Executive. I will move those urgent delegated decisions. Councillor Pate, can you please second those?
Second them, Chair.
Thank you very much. We note those delegated. Item number 5. Are there any additional items of business? I don't believe that there are any, but could an officer please confirm?
No items received, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item number 6, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I believe that there are a number of these, so I'll start with no, Councillor Orr, can you please declare your interest?
Sorry, I lost you there, Chair. Were you asking me?
Yeah, please. Under declarations of interest, I know you have to declare, so can you please declare?
Yeah, I'd like to declare an interest in item 9, developer contributions, as I'm employed by Lancashire County Council. So pecuniary interest there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pate?
Can I give a prejudicial interest possibly in item 11, which is the recovery plan, as a trustee for the CVS?
Okay, and I know that Lukman Patel is in attendance. Do you want to declare an interest? I know that you did at scrutiny last night.
Thank you, Mark. Whilst officers aren't obliged to declare interest, just in the interest of transparency in relation to the community recovery plan, just want to confirm that I sit as a director stroke trustee at Burnley Football Club in the community, and it's an unremunerated role. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So those have been declared. Are there any other declarations of interest? No? Okay, thank you. Right, item number 7, exclusion of the public. I'll move as per the agenda. Councillor Pate, will you please second that?
Second that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item number 8, right to speak. Have any questions been received, or are we expecting any speakers?
No, Chair, we're not expecting any, and have been received.
Thank you very much. Right, to item number 9, developer contributions, supplementary planning documents. Kate Ingram.
Chair, before we start, Councillor Anwar needs to be put.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Woltman.
Councillor Anwar needs to be put in the lobby for the developer contributions as he's declared a pecuniary interest.
Apologies. Can you please take care of that, Chris, please?
Yeah. Have you got control, Alison? Yeah, it's gone from me.
Thank you very much. So we'll start again. Item number 9, developer contributions, supplementary planning documents. Kate, would you like to introduce the report, please?
I will, Chair, very briefly. I mean, this is a document that we've been working on for the last year. We've been out to consultation. We've had some discussions with scrutiny about it as well. And this is really the final version that we're bringing back to you for approval. But Elizabeth Murphy will be able to talk you through detail.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you're happy, I'll just do a brief recap of the content of the SPD, the consultation we've undertaken, a key issue that has arisen, and then I'm happy to take any questions.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the second in a series of SPDs being prepared to support the adopted local plan, and a further SPD is on air quality management is the next item on the agenda also. SPDs can't set entirely new policy, but can explain how the policies of the local plan will be interpreted and applied. This particular SPD supports local plan policies HS2, IC4 and 5, which cover affordable housing, contributions and infrastructure. It's quite a technical SPD and it includes some background on contributions and some procedural advice, but its main purpose is to set out how the local plan's affordable housing policy will be applied, how contributions will be prioritised and how viability will be considered. So just briefly taking these in turn, in terms of affordable housing, the SPD sets out the expected levels of provision on or for given site types, including the indicative percentages of affordable housing that will be required. It also includes an off-site affordable housing calculator, which will be used to agree contributions where affordable housing is not required on site, either because it's not considered appropriate or because it's adversely affecting viability. In terms of prioritising, the SPD sets out priority 1 contributions, and these are the matters regarded as necessary and critical to the acceptability of a scheme. And as such, the absence of these would result in a scheme's refusal. And whilst these could vary from scheme to scheme, they will normally include matters such as minimum adequate open space and play provision and measures to ensure safe access. The next priority it sets out, priority 2, are those that are considered necessary and important, and therefore the ones that meet the legal tests to be levied, but where we need to take viability into account. And these include affordable housing and education. It's important to remember that for any given scheme, the priority and weighting may vary, but the SPD sets out a framework of how this balancing will be done, and this will give increased transparency. The reason that we need to prioritise is to ensure that otherwise acceptable schemes remain viable, particularly where these are necessary to deliver the local plan. Supporting one contribution may be at the expense of another, or contributions can result in reductions of scheme quality, for example, design quality, environmental standards or increased density, as increasing density normally improves viability. So in terms of assessing viability, and this is a particular issue in Burnley, in the past this has been done by developers at the individual application level. And although developers can still do this, national policy encourages us to do it at the plan level. And the purpose of the plan viability assessment, and Burnley Council did one of these, which was tested at examination, is not to test every conceivable scheme, but to ensure that the policies of the plan and the necessary and critical infrastructure can actually be delivered. So the SPD takes this evidence that was used for the plan and sets out a series of viability ceilings, and these are intended to provide a clarity of the upper limits of viability in terms of requests, and will allow prioritising or occasionally the waiving of requests. The viability evidence at the plan did find that the policies and the absolutely critical infrastructure could be delivered, but did warn that we still needed to retain flexibility about other contributions, particularly for brownfield sites. So these ceilings are not rigid, they are SPD, but they will hopefully provide a guidance both for developers and for officers and members in making the decisions. The SPD was initially considered as a draft in Executive 2019 and then was issued for consultation. And as part of that, Scrutiny Committee considered it in January of this year and established a working group to look at the consultation responses in due course. This working group met on the 22nd of September, and a copy of the notes of the working group are attached to Appendix C. They considered that the draft SPD and resolved to support it, but at that time they didn't have the final further comments of Lancashire County Council. Last night at Scrutiny Committee, they looked at the SPD and the notes of the working group, and the resolution was to note the content of the report. In terms of the consultation responses we received, there weren't a large number of responses, but there was a useful range, both from members of the public, organisations and developers. And some changes to the draft SPD have been made in response to those comments, but they've not altered the thrust of the SPD. The responses and the officer recommendations based on those are set out verbatim in Appendix B. The most difficult issue that we have had to resolve is in respect of secondary school contributions. And in recent years, the amounts requested for these by the County Council have been substantial. And the requirement in some cases has only been necessary because of the decision to close Hambledon College following the opening of a free school. This did decrease capacity overall, but also provided replacement capacity in a location further away from a number of the local plan sites, and this decision happened after the local plan was adopted. So Lancashire County Council currently use a 3-mile as the crow flies or radius distance to determine the need for additional places. And this sort of rigidity and distance is considered unnecessary, and it's not recommended by the Department for Education. Given the issues I've discussed and that are outlined in the report with regard to viability and the importance of retaining scheme quality, officers approached the County Council to discuss a more flexible interpretation. Unfortunately, we couldn't reach agreement, and understandably, perhaps Lancashire County Council wanted to maintain a consistent approach across the part of Lancashire for which they're responsible. But this approach is not considered justified in Burnley for the reasons set out. So we're proposing in the SPD to use the greater of that 3-mile distance and the borough boundary. At the present time, we're still awaiting an update and consultation on the revised school place provision strategy for Lancashire. But at the present time, there is spare capacity at Burnley High School, and there are plans to extend both Unity and Shuttleworth colleges. And looking at the population household projections, it is likely that that spare capacity that exists will be used up over the plan period, and at that point, subject to what the County Council set out in their school provision strategy, contributions for secondary education will then be required. The SPD doesn't take into account the reforms set out in the government's white paper, which are wide-ranging and would particularly affect local plans. It has been determined that we should continue with the SPD, but keep it under review, which would be the case in any event, as we need to monitor any change in building costs, house prices, and anything else that would affect its content. Being an SPD, it can be reviewed relatively swiftly. It doesn't need to go through independent examination, and it can be withdrawn if necessary. So the recommendation is to adopt the SPD. This is the final stage in its preparation, and the draft ready for adoption is set out at Appendix A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Members, can I speak first? Councillor Roger.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm on. Right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I moved the report. In doing so, I'd just like to say that the report is very detailed in highlighting the key areas that developer contributions will go towards. I welcome the SPD to support the implementation of Burnley's local plan and for it to be continually reviewed. I would also like to thank the officers for putting together this report. I know it's been a tough and challenging year, but credit to all those involved. So I move the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roger. I think I'd just like to add that I think it's an essential document, this, that it provides a great deal of clarity as to what we're looking for from developers, ensuring we get the viability and scheme quality balance right going forward. Certainly, the document has been a long time in the making. It's gone through a rigorous process, public consultation and the political processes. What I would like to say, though, is that the executive fully agree with a lot of the comments that were made at scrutiny last night in terms of the secondary school contributions and the debates that's been had with LCC, and the response we've had from LCC isn't seen as particularly helpful in many respects, and there's a bit of a hindrance, and hence we really need to keep to make sure that it's delivered with secondary education going forward. One other thing, I was interested in what Elizabeth actually said, certainly at scrutiny, and I think she mentioned it again today, in terms of LCC wanting to be consistent across all areas of Lancashire in terms of how they apply policy. Well, certainly I'm having other debates in other areas with LCC where they take exactly the opposite view, saying we're such a diverse place, we should have tailored policies and procedures that fit with the need of the particular area. And I think that this is a particular need when you think about education in East Lancashire and Burnley in particular, that we need a tailored approach. And I think it's showing a great deal of inflexibility from LCC's point of view, that they're not prepared to accommodate us in this respect. And that's why we need to keep this document under continuous review to make sure that our schools, secondary schools, are getting what they need out of this. So I will second the report on the basis that we are going to keep it under continuous review. Does any other member wish to speak at this stage? No? Okay. The report has been moved and it has been seconded. So I will take, unless I hear otherwise, I will take this report as being accepted. Okay, thank you. The SPD is carried. Moving on to air quality management, protecting health and addressing climate change, supplementary planning. Sorry, Lookman,
And Alison, can you let Afrasia back into the room, please?
okay, can I just do a sound check? Can you hear me?
Error mark, yes.
Of course. Thank you very much and welcome back to the meeting. We're at item number 10, Air Quality Management, Protecting Health and Addressing Climate Change Supplementary Planning Documents. To introduce again, please.
Chair, this is the second of one of the SPDs that we've been preparing over the last year, and Pete will briefly talk you through the detail.
Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Pete. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as Elizabeth mentioned in introducing the Developer Contributions SPD, this Air Quality Management SPD forms part of a suite of documents that's being prepared to support the policies of Burnley's local plan. This report seeks approval of the Air Quality Management SPD following a period of consultation that was approved by the Executive in February 2020. The original 6-week consultation started on the 27th of February but was subsequently extended to the 30th of June due to the coronavirus pandemic. During the consultation, 14 duly made responses were received, which included 29 detailed comments. Whilst a number of responses misunderstood in part the role of the SPD, a number led to changes to the document, and full details of the comments received and the changes that were made are set out in Appendix B to this report. Adoption of the SPD will meet the Council's commitment to prepare an air quality management SPD as set out in the Burnley Local Plan and also the Council's Local Development Scheme, which is the timetable set out for preparing documents which has previously been approved by the Council. It will also meet the commitment set out in the Council's Air Quality Annual Status Report, which is prepared by Environmental Health. Turning to the SPD itself, whilst the primary focus of the SPD is on the transport impacts of new development in relation to air quality and the direct impacts on health, it is also recognised that reducing and mitigating air pollution from transport emissions has co-benefits in relation to addressing climate change. Policy NE5 of the local plan requires applicants to prepare an air quality assessment where a development may result in a significant increase in air pollution. This SPD provides clarity on who needs to prepare these assessments and how they should be prepared. By following the 6 steps that are set out in the SPD, it will allow applicants to classify their site, which in turn sets out which assessment is needed and what mitigation could be considered appropriate. For small sites, it will most likely lead to the default mitigations, which form part of the policies of the local plan already. And for larger sites, it will hopefully lead to a smooth passage through development management by standardising requirements and signposting mitigation. The recommendation of the report is that the Executive note the decision of the Scrutiny Committee dated 11th of November 2020, which recommended that the Executive approve the SPD. The report and the SPD was presented to that Scrutiny Committee, and there was a discussion with members of the Scrutiny Committee around a number of issues which were pertinent to the members of that committee, and they resolved following that discussion to recommend the SPD to be approved. So the adoption version of the SPD is set out at Appendix A to this report, and as I say, the recommendation is that it is adopted as set out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete. Over to members. Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I move the report. In doing so, once again, the report is very thorough and comprehensive. I acknowledge the fact and note the fact that Scrutiny Committee has recommended this SPD to be approved by the Executive. I am a strong supporter of the Green Agenda and would welcome this air quality SPD to support the implementation of Berlin's local plan. Again, I would like to thank all of the officers involved for their hard work in putting this together. Therefore, I move the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roger. I couldn't agree more. This is an extremely important SPD, as was the previous one, but I don't think there's any greater cause than climate change and making sure that we have clean air to breathe. So it's essential that developers and everybody associated with the planning process has clarity in terms of what the requirements are going forward. And we can only really see that these requirements are going to become probably more and more stringent as years go by, as we head towards carbon neutrality. So this SPD is very, very welcome. I will second that report. And does any member wish to speak at this stage? Nope. Okay. So the report has been moved. It has been seconded. Unless I hear to the contrary, We will pass that report. Okay, thank you, colleagues. The SPD is carried. Thank you. So now to item number 11 on our agenda, COVID-19 Community Recovery Plan. Over to you, Rob.
Thanks very much, Councillor Townsend. The
Sorry,
council.
Chair, before we just continue, can I just clarify my interest?
Of course.
Sorry, just to clarify that I have another interest on this item, which is non-pecuniary and non-prejudicial.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Thank you, Councillor Pate. Sorry, continue, Rob.
Thanks, Chair. The council has a vital community leadership role in our local efforts to contain the virus and to help the borough bounce back as quickly as possible from its impacts. The exec has already endorsed an economic recovery strategy, and this document is about what the council can do to support the community through our work alongside partners on test and trace, the vaccination programme, and emergency assistance to those most in need. The main recommendation is that the council supports the development of the Burnley Together Hub, which was supported by members of Scrutiny Committee at its meeting last night. Members of the committee did, however, request that a further report in 6 months' time is brought to them detailing how the hub has made an impact on the wider determinants of health, such as helping people into work, providing greater financial security, helping people out of social isolation, and to lead a more active lifestyle. So in this way, it's hoped that the hub can reduce the number of residents that are potentially at risk to long-term scarring from the worst effects of the pandemic on both businesses and on communities. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Rob. I'm going to move this report. It's an extremely important report, and as you say, it goes alongside the economic recovery strategy that we approved at a previous executive. So the two documents do complement each other very well. I note Scrutiny's comments last night, which were very constructive around this report. And I say thank you also to the previous executive who have done much of the spade work prior to us taking on the administration a few weeks ago. Much work went into it prior to that, and you can tell that a lot of good thinking has gone into this, and it sets us in good stead as we move forward from, unfortunately, we're still in a response stage, but as the vaccine begins to get rolled out, hopefully very soon we're in a recovery stage, and this plan will really kick in and come into its own. I know that there was a lot of talk at Scrutiny about basically building more and more things into this plan. I think we just have to be careful that we do focus on what this plan is all about, and that is the recovery stage. And I think as soon as we get on our feet again and through the recovery stage, there will be many lessons to be learned. But I think it's probably important at that stage that we then take the key lessons and the key elements, and embed those within our strategic plans that we already have. I do get a little bit reticent about having things like recovery plans, because it always sounds like you're in a state of being behind the curveball and you're always trying to play catch up, just as I always had a problem when we used to call things regeneration plans, because it always makes it sound like somewhere's run down, and you know basically you want to promote a lot more positive image from that. So I think the idea of these plans is that we're allowed to kick on as soon as we get into the recovery phase. We kick on as quickly as we possibly can, and then we embed all the key lessons learned and the key elements that we need to take forward into our strategic plans going forward. I think one thing that came out yesterday that I was reading earlier today was a report titled The State of the North 2020 that just showed how far the North was behind the South in terms of deprivation and life chances, and how they've got worse under the pandemic. which really only strengthens the need for us to have a dedicated plan to get us to a place where we need to be going forward. I also welcome what scrutiny suggested yesterday, which was that we should review this plan in 6 months' time, because obviously we want to kick on and implement as many things as quickly as possible, and it's essential that members keep a close eye on this. So I welcome the fact that it's going to go back to scrutiny in 6 months, and I know the executive will want to see it as well. So having said all that, great piece of work by all concerned, including the last administration, so our thanks to them for that, and I move the report. Councillor Pate, I see you've got your hand up. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It was just to add, we've been on the steering group meeting earlier today, and people are really positive about what we can bring out of this really awful situation. But you can have as many plans as you want, but what's the most important thing when you look at this piece of paper is the partnerships that are on there, and nothing will happen without really good quality partnerships. And this response stage now is bringing all those partners together in a way that they've never worked before, in an important way that is depending on people's livelihoods, people's well-beings, people's mental health. And it's brought about so much change in the town just over the last few months, and we need to make sure that change keeps pushing forward and that everybody's involved at the next stage. And the recovery isn't just about people that we would normally look at, so people that would feel like they're in a deprived situation, feel they've not missed out on things. These are people who are missing out today that shouldn't be missing out because of their background circumstances. It's literally the virus that has kept them off school, out of college, away from a job, businesses closing down where they would have expected to have a secure apprenticeship. These will be, children that have got good intelligence, good backgrounds, that really need the help of this. Along with all the other aspects that are in this recovery plan. It's so big when you start to try and unpick it, but just really want to emphasize those partnerships, how important they are, and the valuable work of all the officers from all those organisations on there, not just our own, that are going to have to pin this together over the next few months. Thank you.
Very well said. Councillor Anwar.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't think there's anything further I can add to what Councillor Pate and yourself said in terms of the importance and value of this work, and in particular the partnerships. So I'd just like to go ahead and second the report.
Thank you very much. The report has been moved and seconded. Unless I hear to the contrary, the report will be carried. Thank you very much. The report is carried, and we look forward to seeing the outcomes of the way things are moving forward in 6 months' time. Item number 12, the Safer Streets project. Jo, over to yourself.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening all. I'm really pleased to be bringing this report to the Executive tonight. The purpose being, obviously, for the Executive to consider the recommendation to accept the Safer Streets grant funding, and also to authorise the listed delegations to pursue the delivery of the project. Just in terms of briefly taking the Executive through the key points of the report, I just want to summarise by starting with an explanation that whilst the report says that, well, the grant funding was launched in January, February this year, in terms of our work, it was quite a challenging turnaround to submit a bid within the timescales given in terms of when it landed with us in Burnley to work on. But what I want to say is a big thank you not only to the council officers that we work with, but it was truly a partnership approach working with Lancashire's Police Crime Commissioner and officers, and also other colleagues across the Pennine Lancashire Strategic Community Safety Partnership. In terms of the Safer Streets initiative, subject to the executive's approval, it will enable significant infrastructure and improvements to be made to a number of properties in 2 wards in Burnley. We are delighted that the Police Crime Commissioner has recommended that the primary bid be for Burnley, for Lancashire, so that's a great achievement. And subject to the executive's approval of this report tonight, there will be a number of significant commissions that will look at bringing lock packages, gates to insecure back premises, to backyards of properties in Bank Hall and Burnley Wood, CCTV investment and alley gates, all with the aim of giving our residents within these areas safety and confidence. And what we want to do with the scheme, should this be successful, is bring communities with us and have some longevity and engagement with those communities to provide more resilience to areas that are challenging on the community safety front. So I'm happy to bring this report tonight.
Thank you very much, Jo. Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Chair. Again, nothing further really to add to what the officer has just said. Just that I'm actually very excited about the delivery of this piece of work, because I can see the potential and the impact that this investment in our town is going to have in terms of tackling ASB and all the issues that have been raised as a result of the application. But I would like to just mention and just thank the officers and the staff who worked on putting this bid in, not just in a short turnaround, but also at the start of the pandemic as well. And they've got that in and secured this funding, which will benefit Burnley. And the thing that I'm most excited about as part of this piece of work will be what the officer just touched on with regards to the legacy and long-term impact that it will have on residents, not just in Bank Hall and Burnley Wood, but wider for the whole of Burnley as well. So I'd like to move the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Anwar. I will second the report. I too welcome this funding. I think it's a real opportunity for the 2 areas involved that obviously have very serious challenges and long-standing challenges that need to be addressed and can only be addressed by serious funding and investment. So very pleased that the Police and Crime Commissioner has seen fit that Burnley is needs this investment. What I would like to do though is, although it's good news for those areas that hopefully we can improve, I think we need to stress that this doesn't mean that we're going to take our eye off the ball regarding any other areas in the town. All of the wards and areas are very important to us. We'll always be striving to get the investment that we need to improve their areas also. But certainly good news that these 2 areas are going to get this focus of attention to start with, and we'll do our utmost to try and get more areas included in other schemes in the future. So I will second the report. And any member? Nope. Okay, we'll go to the approval stage then. Unless I hear otherwise, the report has been moved and it has been seconded. Unless I hear otherwise, we will approve that report. Thank you. The Safer Streets project report is approved. Thank you. To item number 13, Capital Monitoring Report 2020 to 21, Quarter 2. Howard.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the report is to update members on progress on the capital budget up to the end of September this year. So the executive has to recommend to full council a reduction in the capital budget of 2.2 million, and that will give a revised budget and financing of 16.9 million for the year. The main reasons for the reduction is the reprofiling of the budgets for 4 schemes into the next financial year, so it's split between this year and next year. So that's 609,000 for the Padiham THI scheme, 618,000 for Lower St James's Street, 500,000 for the building infrastructure works, which is the repointing of the stonework outside the town hall, and 300,000 for the Better Care grant. The executives also asked to recommend to full council or to note the year-end position on receipts and contributions that we're estimating to be 836,000 at the end of March. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Howard. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Howard has gone through the bones of the report. It's not a reduction in the amount of work we're doing, it's just a reprofiling for various reasons. But I'm happy to move the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graham. I will second that report. Any member? No. Okay, we'll go to the vote. It's been moved and seconded. Unless I hear otherwise, the report will be approved to go to full council. Thank you. That is approved. Item number 14, Revenue Monitoring Report 2020 to 21, quarter 2. Howard.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, similarly, this is a report to update members on progress of the revenue budget up until the end of September. So the executives asked to note that there's an anticipated overspend of 118,000 at the end of the year, and that's after we've taken into account an estimated 1.1 million from the sales fees and charges income compensation scheme. Now that's a massive improvement on what was reported in quarter 1. So we're pleased to see it heading in the right direction. We also asked to note that there's an estimated deficit of £1.2 million on the collection fund at the end of the year. The Chancellor announced as part of the spending review that they will be providing further funding towards that deficit, and that will be around 75% of irrecoverable losses on business rates. So we're just waiting further information as part of provisional budget settlement review. We have also received tranche 4 of government funding of 920,000 recently, and we're asking the executive to recommend to full council to approve the creation of a newly created COVID-19 reserve, where we can put the balance of the unallocated funding of 860,000 into that reserve, and then that can be used for further increases in expenditure, pressures on income, and contributions towards recovery going forward. Executive also asked to recommend to full council that we waive the service level agreement charge to Burnley Leisure for the current financial year. The main reason for that is that the trust haven't been able to have access to the service level agreement, mainly due to staff being placed on furlough while they've had the mandated closure of the facilities during the year. And we've estimated that we can get 184,000 of that back through from the sales fees and charges income compensation scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Howard. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. It's been a very difficult year so far. I mean, this is only the end of quarter 2. Things have looked very, very bleak at times, and then they've looked slightly better when we've had support from central government. I think we're being very prudent in the way that we're managing the revenue budget at the moment, and I'm very supportive of the notion to put money into a COVID reserve, because there will be very long-lasting impacts financially for this council, as there will be for businesses and other councils. So I'm happy to move this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. I think when I read these reports, I don't think I've ever seen a time, and when we talk about unprecedented, where the fluctuations in the finances through the year are so dramatic. And I know that scrutiny picked up on this last night in terms of, you know, what could possibly be coming next, almost in terms of where we were at quarter 1, where we are now at quarter 2, which is obviously an improved position, but we can't take anything for granted. And let's be clear, there is still a deficit projected in the budget that we have to deal with. So the gap hasn't been plugged completely, but we're certainly in a better position than we thought we were going to be, you know, just a few short weeks ago. On the, I think it's right that we're going to support Burnley Leisure through this pandemic, but it's essential that the council works extremely closely with Burnley Leisure as we go through this to ensure that the financial situations of both organisations, both the Leisure Trust and ourselves, are protected as we go through that process. And I would ask that we, you know, the officers work very closely indeed with the trust and ensuring the financial viability of us both, because we're both intrinsically linked. And the sooner we can get Burnley Leisure open again and functioning to full capacity, the better. But let's hope for better news at the end of Q3 in terms of the gap coming even closer together. But lots of water to go under the bridge between now and then. So I will second the report. Any member? No, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Unless I hear otherwise, the report will be carried. Thank you. The report is carried. Item number 15, Treasury Management Mid-Year Report. Howard.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is just to inform members of the Treasury Management activity for the first half of this financial year. So we just asked to note that the Treasury Management activities that have been undertaken are within the limits that have been prescribed within the strategy that was approved back in February. We're also asking the Executive to recommend to full council that they endorse the updates in the Treasury Management strategy and the revisions to the counterparty list. The main changes are that we're requesting that there are changes to the maximum investment limits for the local authorities and the money market funds from £2 million to £8 million respectively. The reason for that is that we can access better interest rates, and that will be, it gives the council more options going forward for the rest of this year. We have also requested that Burnley College are added to the counterparty list, and that follows the approval of the £4 million loan at full council in October. One thing to note in paragraph 7, it does include projected interest rates going forward. The Chancellor announced in the spending review that they would reverse the increase in the PWB rates that was imposed in October 2019 following the consultation process that had taken place. That took effect from 9 AM on the 26th of November, so that effectively means that our borrowing rates are now 1% lower than they were before. So the projected rates, including this table, will be updated shortly by Link, who are our advisors. And that has a really good news story for our capital schemes that are coming along that have borrowing requirements, notably the Pioneer Place that was approved recently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Howard. Councillor Graham.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Howard, for yet another excellent Treasury Management report. It's, I think, the highlight of this for my, you know, to me, is the reduction in the interest rates from the PWLB, because it means so much. The impact of the really progressive approach we've made on things like Pioneer Place will be better supported. We will not have as much cost of interest going forward, and it will also help us when we come to look at things like repairs to Townley and so on and so forth, which is further on in the agenda. So it's a pleasing report, and you know, I hope that the PWLB rate stays as it is. I'd like to move the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. I'll second the report, and I would like to give my thanks as well to you, Howard, and the team for, like Councillor Graham said, another excellent report. I will just say on the interest rates, it is welcome news. It was obviously it's reversing a decision that was made 12 months previous to that, where they actually put the rates up. But it's better to be late than never in getting to the right place. And certainly in the throes of a pandemic, where we need to be investing to make sure we protect our local economy, I think it is certainly the right decision. So I don't often thank the government for making good decisions, but I think in this respect, they have at least seen the light in terms of making a good decision that allows not just us as a local authority, but those around us as well who are in a similar position to invest. Good, so I'll second the report. Any member? Okay, the report has been moved and seconded. Unless I hear otherwise, we will approve that report. Good, okay, the report is approved, thank you. Item number 16, fees and charges for 2021 and 2022. Howard.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this is to inform members of the proposed charges under fees and charges for the next financial year. So the executive is asked to recommend to full council that fees and charges are increased by 2.5% with effect from the 1st of April 2021. The main changes away from that are the local land charges, where there will be no increase in fees next year. Garden waste collection charges, we're proposing to increase those charges from £30 to £35, but there will be an early bird incentive for the first 8-week period, where the charge will remain at £30 before it's increased. Building control fees will be increased from 2% from the 1st of January. Car parking fees will also be frozen for the next financial year. And bulky white goods, so we're proposing to reduce the charges by 50% for a 3-month period from the 1st of January 2021. That's for a pilot period. And the income forgone will be met from the community skips budget moving forward. We have the cemeteries and crematorium fees that will also be frozen for next year. And the market hall fees and charges have been added to the schedule where they haven't been there previously. And those proposed increases are expected to generate an additional income of 52,000 next year. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Howard. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, it's inevitable, I'm afraid, that we will have to put up some fees and charges. But I think what we've done this year, working with the officers, is to pick out some issues where we know residents are concerned. I mean, the garden waste collection has been very successful, and I think it will become even more successful with the reintroduction of the early bird charging at £30 for the first few weeks of the year. I think also that residents will be supportive of the fact that there'll be no increase to car parking charges. The main reason for doing this is obviously to support the town centre and hopefully, you know, when things start to go back a bit more to normal, that we'll find footfall in the town centre will increase. On the bulky and white goods collection, the reason for reducing this by 50% for a period of 3 months within this financial year, not next financial year, is really to provide a pilot to see the impact of this. If it's successful, then it's possible that the discount will be continued, but we need to see that it's successful and not too impactful on our costs. The other key highlight for me is the cemeteries and crematorium. It would be very callous of us in the middle of a pandemic to increase charges at the cemetery and the crematorium. So we've taken a decision this year to freeze the charges for the coming financial year. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I moved the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graham. Just a few words from me. I think this is all about striking a balance in terms of ensuring we protect the council's finances, because we've just talked that there is still a deficit this year. We need to obviously provide sufficient funding so we can continue to deliver very good services, and we obviously need to protect residents as much as we can who are feeling the chill from a financial point of view of the pandemic, and you're trying to put all that into context. So nobody wants to put fees and charges up, and I think this proposal strikes that balance in terms of protecting residents in key areas, but at the same time giving us some funding to support services going forward. I will second the report. Any member? No, thank you. It's been moved and seconded, so unless I hear otherwise, the report will be approved, which will obviously, for fees and charges, be going to full council next week. Okay, thank you. That report is approved. We're now going to go to private items. Can I just, for those who are watching on the internet, apologise that my video hasn't been on. That's been due to internet and connectivity problems, so I apologise for that. So that concludes the public section of the meeting, and we'll now move to private items. And if officers can inform me when we're ready to continue, please.